The wind came down the slopes like a living thing, sharp and restless, sweeping through the lower ridges of the Rockies just outside Aspen. It carried the scent of pine and distant snow, though winter had not fully arrived. The sun was sinking fast, staining the sky in shades of burnt orange and fading violet. Shadows stretched long across the rugged trail that cut through the foothills. Maya Thompson walked that trail every evening after her shift at the roadside diner. The path was rough and lonely, but it saved her $7 in bus fare each day. $7 meant milk, or heating gas, or a little extra tucked away in a jar labeled future. She tightened the laces of her worn boots and shifted her canvas backpack higher on her shoulders. Inside were leftovers the cook had let her take home, a small container of mashed potatoes and a roll wrapped in napkins. It would be dinner. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind the way it always did when the wind picked up. Habits, Maya, not luck. Habits build your life. Maya had grown up poor. Not the dramatic kind of poor that makes headlines, just the quiet, grinding kind. The kind where every choice mattered. Her mother had worked 2 jobs and still found time to volunteer at the community shelter once a week. Even when they had almost nothing. Especially when they had almost nothing. Kindness isn't something you do when you have extra, her mother used to say. It's something you practice so it becomes who you are. Maya believed that. She had built her life around small, disciplined routines. Wake up at 5, make the bed, show up early, smile even when exhausted, help when you can. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave her strength. The trail curved sharply near a steep slope where loose stones often slid underfoot. She slowed her pace. The temperature was dropping quickly, mountain evenings were unforgiving. That's when she saw it. At first, it looked like a shadow wedged awkwardly against a large boulder at the base of the incline. She squinted. Then the shadow shifted. Her heart jumped into her throat. A man lay crumpled near the rocks, half on his side, half twisted against the stone. One arm was pinned beneath him. His coat, dark and clearly expensive, was torn at the shoulder. His breathing came in shallow, uneven pulls. Maya stopped walking. The rational part of her mind spoke immediately. It's getting dark. You're done, T have service here. You're done, T know this man. Keep going. Fear tightened her chest. The trail was isolated. She was alone. But habits do something strange, they act before fear finishes its argument. She was already moving toward him before she fully decided to. Sir, her voice shook slightly as she knelt beside him. Can you hear me? The man groaned. His face was pale beneath the dirt, streaked with blood from a cut on his forehead. His hair was silver at the temples, his features sharp and refined despite the grime. I slipped, he muttered weakly. Lost my footing. His leg was bent at an unnatural angle. Maya swallowed hard. Can you feel your hands? She asked quickly, remembering fragments from a first aid workshop years ago. He nodded faintly. She exhaled, steadying herself. Her fingers trembled as she removed her scarf and gently wrapped it around his bleeding forehead. She pressed firmly but carefully. The wind cut through her jacket as she worked. Phone, he whispered. She pulled it from near his hand. The screen was cracked. Dead. Of course. She looked up at the sky. The light was fading faster now. In another 30 minutes, darkness would swallow the trail entirely. If she left him, he might not survive the cold. If she stayed without shelter, neither might she. Her cabin was nearly a mile downhill. A small, one-room structure she rented for almost nothing because the roof leaked during heavy rain. It wasn't much, but it had a wood stove. She looked back at him. He didn't look like someone who belonged on this rugged trail alone. His watch glinted, subtle but clearly expensive. His boots were high quality, though now scuffed and muddy. But wealth didn't matter against falling temperatures. Okay, she whispered, more to herself than him. We're going to move. He tried to sit up and cried out in pain. Don't twist your leg, she instructed firmly, surprised at the steadiness in her voice. Put your arm around my shoulders. He looked at her, confusion flickering in his eyes. You can't carry me. I don't need to, she replied. We'll take it slow. She crouched low and positioned herself under his arm. He was heavy, far heavier than she expected. Her muscles strained immediately, but she adjusted her footing and lifted. One step, then another. The trail downhill was uneven, scattered with loose stones. Each movement required concentration. They paused every few yards so he could breathe through the pain. Her arms burned, her legs trembled, sweat dampened her collar despite the cold. Why? He managed between breaths. Why would you do this? She didn't answer at first. She was too focused on not slipping. Finally she said quietly, because someone once taught me not to walk away. The wind howled again, stronger now. Pine branches creaked overhead. Halfway down, her foot slid on gravel. They nearly fell. She tightened her grip with a gasp, bracing her weight backward until they steadied. Her heart pounded wildly. You could still turn back, fear whispered again. But habits speak louder than fear. Step, pause, breathe, step. By the time her small cabin came into view, the sky had turned completely dark. Stars pierced the cold air above the towering outline of the Rocky Mountains. She nudged the door open with her shoulder and helped him inside. The cabin smelled faintly of wood smoke and detergent. A single lamp cast warm yellow light across mismatched furniture and neatly folded blankets stacked in the corner. She eased him onto her narrow bed. Stay awake, she instructed. She moved quickly, lighting the stove, feeding it small pieces of wood, glowing gently until the flame caught. Warmth slowly spread through the room. She cleaned his wound properly, this time with boiled water and the tiny first aid kit she kept tucked in a drawer. She gave him the last of her soup, heating it carefully over the stove. That was for you, he murmured weakly as she handed it to him. I'll eat tomorrow, she said simply. He studied her in silence as he sipped. There was no curiosity in her eyes about his identity. No calculation, no expectation, just focus, just care. When she finally sat down on the small chair beside the bed, exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. Her arms throbbed, her boots were still muddy. Her dinner was gone, but something inside her felt steady. Certain. Outside, the wind battered the thin walls. Inside, warmth filled the space between two strangers, built not from wealth, but from a lifetime of small, disciplined kindness. He watched her quietly, as though seeing something he had forgotten existed. And in that fragile, flickering light at the foot of the mountains, neither of them yet understood that this simple habit, practiced without hesitation, had just shifted the direction of both their lives forever. She hadn't heard from the men she saved. After emergency vehicles arrived that night, black SUVs, paramedics, men in tailored coats speaking urgently into headsets, she had quietly stepped aside. Someone had finally said his name out loud. Daniel Carter, founder of Carter Global Holdings. A billionaire. The realization had stunned her, but only for a moment. Then she had gone back inside her cabin, washed her single bowl, and woken up the next morning for work. Because habits don't, T paused for shock. That afternoon, the diner bell chimed. Maya was wiping down a counter when the sound of silence fell over the room, the kind of silence that spreads when something unusual walks in. A sleek black car had parked outside. Not flashy, just powerful. The door opened. Daniel Carter stepped inside. He looked different now, polished, composed, confident. No dirt on his coat. No blood on his forehead. His legs seemed fully healed. But his eyes were the same. They found her instantly. Maya's heart skipped. Her first instinct was to step back. Not out of fear, but disbelief. He walked toward her section and sat down like any regular customer. Coffee, she asked automatically, defaulting to routine. He smiled faintly. Yes, black. Her hands moved from muscle memory, pour, place, step back. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The diner's fluorescent lights hummed softly above them. I never thanked you properly, he said at last. You didn't need to, Maya replied gently. Anyone would have done the same. Daniel studied her face carefully. No, he said quietly. They wouldn't have. His voice wasn't dramatic. It was certain. He leaned back slightly. When I fell that day, I wasn't just hiking, he continued. I was thinking. About what? She asked without meaning to. About how I built an empire, he said calmly, but lost trust in people along the way. Maya didn't interrupt. In my world, he continued, kindness usually has a price tag attached to it. Favors for influence, donations for publicity, smiles for advantage. His gaze softened. But you gave me your last meal. She looked down slightly. It was just soup. It was your only soup. The words hung in the air. I had investigators look into you, he admitted. Maya's head snapped up. Not because I doubted you, he added quickly. Because I couldn't understand you. She didn't know whether to feel offended or amused. And what did they find? She asked quietly. That you work double shifts when someone else calls in sick. That you volunteer at the local shelter on Sundays. That you've been saving small amounts of cash in a jar labeled, future. Her breath caught. He shouldn't know that. You have nothing, he said gently. And yet you give. Maya swallowed. I have enough. That answer hit him harder than anything else she had said. He reached into a leather folder beside him and placed it on the table. I want to build something, he said. You already have, she replied, half smiling. No, he shook his head. Something different. He opened the folder. Inside were documents, structured plans, proposals, financial outlines. A foundation, he explained, focused on small mountain towns, education access, emergency shelters, scholarships, micro loans for local businesses. Maya stared at the numbers. They were enormous. And I want you to help lead it. She blinked. Lead it. You understand something my executives don't, he said. You understand people who struggle quietly. She laughed nervously. I am a waitress. You're disciplined, he corrected. You're consistent. You act when it's inconvenient. He leaned forward slightly. That's leadership. Her heart pounded. This wasn't a gift. It was responsibility. I don't have a degree in business, she whispered. You have character, he replied. That's rarer. Silence stretched between them again. The old fear crept in. You don't belong in that world. You'll fail. You are not qualified. But another voice, steadier, stronger, rose up. The voice built from years of repetition. Wake up early. Show up. Try anyway. Do the next right thing. Habits. She looked up at him. If we do this, she said slowly, it won't be about your name on buildings. A flicker of respect crossed his face. It will be about opportunity, she continued. For people who never expect it. He nodded once. Agreed. Months later, construction began on the first community center near the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. It didn't carry only his name. It carried a mission. Children who once struggled with reading received tutoring. Single parents received support grants. Emergency response teams were better equipped for winter accidents in the mountains. Maya still woke up at subah ke 5 baje. Except now, instead of pouring coffee, she reviewed scholarship applications. Instead of counting tips, she counted impact. She didn't move into a mansion. She didn't suddenly become someone else. She remained exactly who she had trained herself to be. Only now, her habits had a wider reach. At a press conference months later, a reporter asked Daniel Carter what had inspired this dramatic shift in his priorities. He paused before answering. 2 weeks ago, he said, I believed power came from wealth. Today I know it comes from character. Who taught you that? The reporter asked. He smiled slightly. A girl who didn't know who I was, he said. And didn't care. Across the room, Maya stood quietly, uncomfortable with the spotlight. Because she knew the truth. Nothing magical had happened on that mountain. No fairy tale, no destiny. Just a habit practiced long before opportunity appeared. And when opportunity finally came, she was ready.